it is, the recording is on. Try to understand. There are three unique sections of TDS, which is section 194IA, section 194IB, and section 194M, because it is applicable to everyone, whether the particular person has a business income or not. In most of the cases, I'm not saying in all the cases, but in most of the cases, the TDS provisions is applicable to the persons who have income from business and profession, and they are making the payment and claiming the expenses. But this three sections, section 194IA, section 194IB, or section 194M, and there are other sections also, but these three are unique sections where the person who is deducting the TDS does not have to obtain the TAN number. Otherwise, as whatever the sections we have learned, so there are large number of sections under which the TDS is required to be deducted if the condition mentioned in that particular section is satisfied. So section 192, section 192A, section 193, section 194, section 194A, 194B, 194BB, 194C, D, DA, large number of sections are there where the TDS is required to be deducted. And wherever any section is applicable to a person where they have to deduct the TDS as per the income tax provisions, they have to apply for the TAN, tax deduction and collection account number. So which is exactly the 10 number, 10 digit number, which is allotted on the basis of PAN. So PAN number, the permanent account number, there is a TAN, tax deduction and collection account number. So to those SSE to whom the TDS provisions are applicable and they are deducting the TDS. So before deducting the TDS, they have to, or after deducting the TDS, but before depositing of the amount of TDS, they have to obtain a TAN. Or there is a form number 49B for the applications for obtaining the TAN. So the person has to apply, and you do not have to provide any documentary evidence for the purpose of obtaining the TAN. The reason is TAN is based on PAN, and the TAN and PAN is issued by the income tax department. So the person who has obtained the PAN, they have already the requisite document with themselves. So only you have to fill up the form and you have to pay the requisite amount of fees, and then the TAN number will be allotted to the SSE. So in all other sections, the person who is deducting the TDS has to obtain a TAN. If they already obtained the TAN, then they can pay the amount of TDS to the government. But as far as section 194IA, 194IB, and 194M section is concerned, there is no requirement of having the TAN. Even if the person does not have the TAN and the condition mentioned in these three sections is satisfied, they have to deduct the TDS and they have to pay to the government. The another unique features or the sections which is differ from the other sections is the challan number. Here, in all other sections where the TDS is required to be deducted, the challan will be 281 will be used. While in section 194IA, whatever the amount of TDS is deducted, challan number or form number 26QB should be used. Under section 194IB, challan number 26QC should be used. And in case of section 194M, the challan number 26QD is used. And this is not only the challan, it is also treated as written. So it is written plus challan. So you can say it is the challan cum written form. So यहाँ पे लिखा है challan number and form, means it is challan cum form. In other sections other than section 194IA, section 194IB, and section 194M, in all other sections, the person who has deducted the TDS will pay the tax to the government by using the Chalan number 281. Once they have paid, and that should be paid within the due dates. So due date, as we have learned, it is this one. Most of the time, this is the due date which is applicable. So you have to pay this. And once you do this, at the end of each quarter, you have to file a quarterly return. So this is, the quarter one return, right? Because the quarter one return, or let me write it at the end of the session, end of the quarter. So this is quarter one. Then September is the end of the quarter two. December is the end of quarter three, and March is the end of the quarter four. So once the quarter gets over, you have to file the TDS return of the quarter. So this is what there is a due date of filing the TDS return. So TDS return, right? The due dates, you can say due date, right? The due date, quarterly TDS return means wherever the quarter ends, 1 month is given for the payment for the filing of the TDS returns. So this is what is mentioned over here, right? The due date of submission of the quarterly returns in respect of the tax deducted or collected on the quarterly returns shall be submitted within the time limit. So this is the June, it is 31st of July. September, it is October, right? So it is the 31st of October. 1 month is given. December is over, 31st of 1st January. But in case of the last quarter, the time limit for the payment of tax 30 days has been given. So filing of the return, there are 2 months is given. So 31st May will be paid by the month of 31st of May. So this is what is required to be done. However, this is other than section 194IA, 194IB, and 194I, 194M. So in these three, because these three sections have Chalan cum form. So whatever the Chalan is used for the payment of tax, it is deemed to be treated as return as well. So that's the reason, if you look at over here, within 30 days from the last day of the month in which the tax is deducted. So if an SSC or any person is required to deduct the TDS under section 194 IA, that particular person has to pay the amount of tax deducted within 30 days from the last day of the month in which the tax is deducted. So suppose if they have deducted the tax on, suppose let's take a simple example. Section 194 IA, right? The tax has been deducted on 15th of March. Right, so the end of the month in which the TDS is deducted. So TDS is deducted in the month of March. So the end of the March is 31st of March, and from that 30 days. So 30th April is the last date of payment of TDS. So within 30 days from the last day of the month in which the tax is deducted, right? So even if it is deducted on 28th of March, it is the same because it is deducted in the month of March. End of the March is 31st of March, and from that 30 days means it will be the same. Even if the tax is deducted on 1st of May, 1st of March, if it is deducted on 1st of March, then also the due date is 30th April because the tax has been deducted in the month of March. The end of the month of March is 30th March, and from that, sorry, 31st of March, and then the 30 days from it means 30th April. Is it clear बच्चों, समझ में आ रहा है?
Yes, sir.
Right. And same way, under section 194B, the same 30 days or same 30 days. So in तीनों section के अंदर, or the uniqueness is that as in the other sections, the TAN is required, but in these three sections, the person does not have to apply for the TAN. Even if the person does not have the TAN, they can file. And this will be treated as Chalan cum form. So this is Chalan cum form. So quarterly statement for the tax deducted. So whenever the any deductor is deducting the TDS under various sections. So there are actually three types of TDS written. One is known as 26Q, 24Q, 26Q. The first one and the second last. That is the mostly used form of filing the TDS return. Something like in income tax, there is ITR 1, ITR 2, ITR 3, ITR 4, something same like that. Um, Under the TDS, when the tax TDS has been deducted and it is paid to the government, when the TDS return is required to be filed, it is segregated into three categories, and they largely use these two, 24Q and 26Q. So if any person who has deducted a tax from salary, so the tax deducted from salary under section 192 will be subject to 24Q, 24Q, and other than salary tax deduction in any other case it is 26Q. When 27Q is used, the tax deductions when the deductees are non-resident, foreign companies, and the persons who are resident but not ordinarily resident. So if a person is making a payment to the non-resident and they are deducting the TDS for the non-resident, there is a separate form used, is 27Q. So actually there are three quarterly returns, one for salary 24Q, other than salary 26Q, and any person is making payment to non-residents and they are deducting the TDS return is 26Q. Are you able to understand this up to this? यहां तक समझ में आ रहा है?
Yes, sir.
हाँ, तब ठीक है. Whereas this section 194IA, 194IB and 194M, it is चलन कम रिटर्न. So ये रिटर्न भी है और चलन भी है. 26Q, B, C and D. So 26Q is common and then B, C, D. Section 194A, 194B and 194M. So now let's understand what is section 194A, section 194B and section 194M first. So I'm going into that. So if you have a material, you can go to the page of section 194I A, है ना? So section 194IA पे आप चले जाइए. So here section 194IA talks about. Now as we understand further, now you would be able to understand more clearly the provisions. When and how the tax is deductible from the payments on transfer of certain immovable properties under section 194IA. Section 194IA is applicable as follow. Who is responsible for the tax deduction? Any persons being a transferee responsible for paying other than the persons referred to in section 194LA to a resident transferor any sum by way of consideration for transfer of any immovable property other than agricultural land in rural area in India is liable to deduct the tax at source under section 194IA. है ना? तो यहाँ पे अगर कोई पर्सन इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी परचेस कर रहा है और वो जिसके पास से परचेस कर रहा है उसको इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी के लिए पैसा दे रहा है, तो उसके अंदर सेक्शन 194IA एप्लीकेबल होगा और ये सबको एप्लीकेबल होगा. Even it's applicable to your parents, even it is applicable to you as well. अगर आपके पास बहुत सारे पैसे है और आपने कहीं पे जाके इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी परचेज की, either the residential house property or a commercial property, obviously it must exceed certain limits. The limit is 50 lakhs. So any person who is buying a particular immovable property, the value of which is exceeding 50 lakhs, they are subject to TDS, and they have to deduct the tax from the payments made to the person from whom a particular immovable property has been purchased. So time limit, the tax will be deducted at the time of payment or at the time of credit, and giving the credit to the transferor, whichever is earlier. The, hello? Any questions? Any question? Someone has unmute the mic.
चलो मैं जॉब पे आगे आई रही ना हाँ वांधो नहीं तो जाती रहती
Nirmal Davi. Let me mute on hold. Let me mute the mic, right? Fine. So someone is, please don't join for the sake of joining. And that's what I hope so. Try to understand provisions. I understand it's sometimes it become difficult, but later on you would be able to have a clarity of everything, right? So section 194 is applicable to anyone, right? So if a particular person, the rate of tax deduction is, the tax is deductible at the rate of 1%, right? However, no tax is deductible where the consideration paid or payable is less than 50 lakhs of rupees. So if the consideration payable is more than 50 lakhs, then section 194 IA is applicable, right? Or you have a consideration. So what is the consideration? Consideration with effect from September 1, 2019 for transfer of immovable property includes all charges of a nature of club membership fee, car parking fee, electricity, water facility fee, maintenance fee, advance fee, or any other charges of a similar nature which are incidental to the transfer of immovable property, and all include, and उसके ऊपर TDS कटेगा और काटना पड़ेगा, right? And if the recipient does not have the PAN, the tax will be deducted at the rate of 20%. That is always there. आप जिसका TDS काट रहे हो, अगर वो आपका उसका परमानेंट नंबर प्रोवाइड नहीं कर रहा है, then the rate applicable, in our case the rate applicable is 1%, and as he has not furnished the PAN, then the rate 20%, whichever is higher, so 20% will be applicable. समझ में आ रहा है बच्चों सेक्शन 194 IA?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
ओके तो आप कभी भी अपनी जिंदगी में 50 लाख से ज्यादा की इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी परचेस करोगे तो याद रखिएगा सेक्शन 194 आई है, आपको टीडीएस काटना है अगर 50 लाख के ज्यादा की प्रॉपर्टी है. और आई कैन शो यू द लाइव फॉर्म, वो कल जो मैंने बताया था वो वहां पे ऑलरेडी अवेलेबल है, राइट? सो अगर आप जाओगे तो ये मैंने से चलन है ना 281 दिख रहा है. Same way, this is 26QB, the payment on sale of properties, right? So 26QB is already over here. 26QC, this is section 194IA, 194IB, or 26QD is for the section 194M. ये तीनों चलन यहाँ पे है और यही चलन आपको भरना है. अगर मैं इसके ऊपर क्लिक करूंगा, there are 4 steps, right? तो यहाँ पे आपको देना है टैक्स पेयर्स इंफॉर्मेशन, हु इज द टैक्स पेयर. सो सिलेक्ट ऑल एंड डिटेल, गिव द ऑल द डिटेल्स वेदर, है ना. So you have to provide all this information. Once you fill up all this information, then you have to go to the address detail, then property details, which property has been removed, and the payment information, and you have to pay that challan. So once you pay, fulfill all these 4 steps one by one: taxpayer information, address, property details, and payment information. Then when you make the payment, it is return come, challan come, return. It will be paid. Same way for all the three other sections. Section 194IB, right? The most important is provisions of TAN, not applicable in case of the deductor under section 194I. आपको TAN number लेने की जरूरत नहीं है. When and how the tax is deductible from the rent by a certain individuals, HUFs, under section 194IB. When section 194IB is applicable with effect from June 1, 2017. Who is responsible for the tax deduction? Section 194IB is applicable if an individual or HUF, so it is applicable to individuals and HUF, is responsible for paying the rent of land or building, or such rent is more than 50,000 per month or part of the month. So if any individuals or HUF, if they are paying the rent of rupees more than 50,000 per month, then they are supposed to do the TDS under section 194IB. उनको IB में TDS काटना पड़ेगा. However, section 194IB is not applicable in case an individuals or HUF whose total sales or turnover or gross receipts from the business or profession carried on him by exceed rupees 1 crore in case of business and rupees 50 lakhs in case of profession during the financial year immediately preceding the financial year in which the rent is paid or credited. Remember, उनको एप्लीकेबल नहीं है. क्यों? क्योंकि उनको सेक्शन 44AB और टैक्स ऑडिट एप्लीकेबल हो जाएगा. अभी भी टैक्स ऑडिट की लिमिट काफी बढ़ चुकी है, तो उन लोगों को एप्लीकेबल नहीं, क्योंकि वहां पे वो रेंट को एक्सपेंस की तरह क्लेम करेंगे. देन वहां पे सेक्शन 194IA एप्लीकेबल हो जाएगा. नहीं, लेकिन अगर वो पर्सनल पेमेंट कर रहा है अपने पर्सनल रेसिडेंस के लिए, राइट, और अपनी पर्सनल इनकम में से, देन दिस सेक्शन 194IB इज एप्लीकेबल. Time of deductions. The tax shall be deducted only at the time of credit of rent from the last of the previous year or the last month of the tenancy if the property is vacant during the year to the account or at the time of payment thereof in case or by check draft or whichever is earlier. तो जब भी आप TDS का पेमेंट करोगे, सॉरी रेंट का पेमेंट करोगे, whether you are making the payment or you are just passing a credit entry, it will be deducted at that moment of time, and then it should be paid to the government within the due dates. Rate of tax. The tax is deductible at the rate of 5% of the rent paid or created during the financial year. However, no tax is deductible where the rent is 50,000 per month or less. अगर 50,000 से कम है या एग्जैक्ट 50,000 है तो आपको TDS काटने की जरूरत नहीं, बिकॉज सेक्शन 194IB इज एप्लीकेबल इफ द रेंट पेड इज मोर देन 50,000, then only the TDS is required to be deducted. If the PAN of the recipient is not available, the tax is deductible at the rate of 20%. However, in such a case, the amount of TDS cannot exceed the rent payable for the last month of the previous year or the last month of the tenancy. So if any person is making the payment and of rent exceeding 50,000 rupees, then only the TDS is required to be deducted. And he has to deduct the TDS at the rate of 5%. But if the person who is making the payment of rent and the person who is receiving the rent does not furnishing his or her or its PAN to the deductor, then the deductor has to deduct at the rate of 5% or 20%, whichever is higher, means at the rate of 20%. Provision of TAN is not applicable. So this section 194B is applicable to all of us. So if we pay the rent of more than 50,000 per month, then these sections will be applicable and we have to comply, and then we have to pay to the government. We have to first deduct the TDS and then have to pay to the government within 30 days from the month in which the TDS is deducted. Then I am directly going to the section 194M because that is very unique sections. Oh, it's just gone away. Yeah, this is section 194M. When and how the tax is deductible on certain payments by individuals or HUF. Section 194M has been inserted with effect from September 1, 2009. Not 9, 2019. So for September 2019 onwards, Section 194M is applicable. The provisions of these sections are given below. Who is deducted? An individuals or HUF who is not required to deduct the tax exhaustion under Section 194C, 194H, or 194J. Right? So is required to deduct the TDS under Section 194M. Because if a person who is an individual or HUF have a business income, then obviously they are required to deduct the TDS as per Section 194C if they have a contract, under Section 194H if they are paying for the commissions, and under Section 194J if they are utilizing any professional services. So that section will be applicable to the businessman and whose books of account is required to be audited. तो वहां पे तो वो ये sections में काम चल जाएगा, लेकिन this is other than the individuals and HUF who have the business income. तो business income नहीं है, ऐसे लोग हैं individuals or HUF, or if they are making the payments, right? Then first, payment or credit to the resident contractor or resident professionals when such payment is for the personal use. अगर इंडिविजुअल्स और HUF अपने पर्सनल यूज के लिए किसी कॉन्ट्रैक्टर को पेमेंट करते हैं, किसी प्रोफेशनल को पेमेंट करते हैं, तो ये सेक्शन 194M एप्लीकेबल हो जाएगा. पेमेंट इंटरेस्ट to a resident contractor or a resident professional or to a resident by way of commission, not being an insurance commission or brokerage. So brokerage, right? Then in brackets where the payer is an individual's HUF and his total sales or turnover or the gross receipts from the business or profession carried on him by him does not exceed 1 crore in case of the business and rupees 50,000 in case of profession in the immediately preceding financial year. So अगर ये exceed हो जाता है तो फिर उनको TDS वैसे भी काटना है रिस्पेक्टिव सेक्शन में, सेक्शन 194C, 194H और 194J. अगर वो एप्लीकेबल नहीं है तो उनको सेक्शन 194M एप्लीकेबल होगा व्हेन देयर इज अ पर्सनल यूज. सो अगर मैं अपने घर के अंदर रिनोवेशन करवाता हूं और रिनोवेशन करने का खर्चा 50 लाख से ज्यादा हो जाता है, राइट, बिकॉज दिस TDS provisions is applicable if the amount is exceeding 50 lakhs. So threshold limit, the tax is not deductible if the aggregate amount paid or payable during the financial year to a resident does not exceed rupees 50 lakhs. Right? So if I have a piece of land and I want to construct a house on it and I give a contract to a contractor who is resident in India, so I am paying for him, and suppose the cost of construction is more than 50 lakhs rupees. So I have to delay the TDS from it. Suppose I appoint professionals. Suppose I am defending my personal case against in the court of law. Someone has filed a case against me, right? Suppose someone has filed a case against me. किसी ने मेरे सामने केस किया है और मैं कोर्ट में उसको प्रूव कर रहा हूँ और लॉयर को अगर मैंने अपॉइंट किया, आई एम पेइंग द फीस to the lawyer which is exceeding 50 lakhs in the previous year, I have to deduct the TDS. So because section 194M will be applicable because it is for the personal use. If I am paying any commission to anyone, then also the TDS is required to be deducted. So are you able to understand, dear students? हेलो,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
ओके। हाँ, थोड़ा थोड़ा साथ साथ में मुझे रिप्लाई देते रहिएगा। ऑनलाइन सेशन में पता नहीं चलता है कि आप लोग हो गया नहीं हो, राइट। और एक स्टूडेंट का हम देख ही चुके हैं, वो बातें कर रहे हैं किसी के साथ और बस फॉर द सेक ऑफ ज्वाइनिंग दे हैव जॉइंड, राइट। सो ऐसा चलता रहता है। देयर इज नो ट्रैक इन एन ऑनलाइन सेशन। सो काइंडली रिप्लाई मी एंड इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेरी प्लीज रेज द क्वेरी। हाँ, कि ये समझ में नहीं आया। तो अगर मैं इंडिविजुअल हूं, मैं किसी को कॉन्ट्रैक्ट देता हूं और उसके लिए पेमेंट करता हूं, किसी की प्रोफेशनल सर्विसेज एक्वायर्ड करता हूं, उसके लिए पेमेंट करता हूं विच इज फॉर पर्सनल यूज, राइट। या फिर मैं किसी को कमीशन देता हूं, ब्रोकरेज पेमेंट कर रहा, ब्रोकरेज के लिए पेमेंट कर रहा हूं और विच इज एक्सीडिंग 50 lakhs in the previous year, then the TDS is required to be deducted. The TDS under section 194 is applicable in respect of the amount paid or payable to a resident for carrying out any work, including the supply of labor for carrying out any work in pursuance of a contract or by way of commissions, not being an insurance commission, brokerage, or by way of fees for professional services. So mainly three types of transactions are, or three activities is included. One is known as contract activity. Second is, the commission or brokerage, and third, the professional services, the payment towards the professional services. So if all this in the previous year exceeds, or any one of it exceeds 50 lakhs or more in the previous year, then the tax is required to be deducted under section 194M. The rate of tax is 5%, and when it is deducted at the time of payment or at the time of credit, whichever is earlier. The lower tax certificate, yes, recipient can apply for nil or lower tax return under section 197. And TAN is not necessary. इसके लिए कोई TAN लेने की आवश्यकता नहीं रहेगी, TAN नंबर की जरूरत नहीं है। Is it clear, dear student? These three sections, are you able to understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Very
Yes, sir.
fair enough. So these three are unique, and once you have deducted, suppose I have a make a payment for the contractor and section 194M is applicable, and if I paid to him on 10th of February, so 10th of February I have to, as we learn, right, I have to make the payment within the due dates. So within the due date the payment is, so if I deducted the section 194M के अंदर काटा है, within 30 days from the last day date of the month in which the tax is deducted, so 10th of February को काटा है, तो वो महीने को छोड़ के नेक्स्ट महीने की 30 तारीख तक मींस 30th of March I have to pay in form number 26QD अगर M है तो जो मैंने आपको अभी ऑनलाइन बताया था, राइट। आप यहाँ पे जाके, राइट, ये 26QB है, 26QC भी है और 26QD भी है, तो आप यहाँ पे जा सकते हो और यहाँ से प्रोसीड कर सकते हो और यहाँ पे जो जो इन्फॉर्मेशन मांगी है दैट्स यू हैव टू फिल अप करेक्टली एंड यू हैव टू पे द टैक्स if you have a net banking or the debit card or credit card facilities there, you can pay through that. So यहाँ से आप पेड कर सकते हो. It is absolutely live. Practical world में भी यही होता है, right? तो the biggest utility of our subject it is 100% live. तो हम जो क्लासरूम में पढ़ रहे हैं प्रैक्टिकल वर्ल्ड में ऐसा होता ही है और टीडीएस काटना ही पड़ता है, ऑप्शन नहीं है, ठीक है। चलो, सो ये तीन सेक्शन बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट है, वो रिटर्न भी हो गया, राइट, वो रिटर्न भी हो जाएगा। सो 195, 26QB, 26QC और 26QD। चलो, आई थिंक वो लोड नहीं हो रहा है, हाँ आ गया, राइट। 26QD आ गया, उसके अंदर भी टैक्स पेयर इंफॉर्मेशन, एड्रेस, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट डिटेल्स एंड पेमेंट इंफॉर्मेशन। शू डू दैट, you have to fill up all this information. Tax applicable, आप टैक्स काट रहे हो, कंपनी है या अदर देन कंपनी है, सो डिपेंडिंग अपॉन फिनेंशियल ईयर कौन सा है आपको सिलेक्ट करना पड़ेगा, राइट। तो फिनेंशियल ईयर यहाँ पे लिखा है, फिनेंशियल विल बी पॉपुलेटेड ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द डेट ऑफ पेमेंट और क्रेडिट सिलेक्टेड इन द फॉर्म। तो जब आप वो सिलेक्ट करोगे डेट और तो वो अपने आप अपनी मर्जी से कैलकुलेट करेगा, आप यहाँ पे फिनेंशियल ईयर सिलेक्ट नहीं कर सकते। Then the status of the payee or deductee, you have to write either the resident or non-resident. The permanent account number अवेलेबल है तो आप यहाँ पे परमानेंट नंबर सिलेक्ट कीजिए और परमानेंट नंबर उसका डालना पड़ेगा. अगर अवेलेबल नहीं है, द टैक्स रेट विल बी यू नो जैसे यहाँ पे आ जाएगा पान नॉट अवेलेबल, राइट. सो पान नॉट अवेलेबल वो यहाँ पे डायरेक्टली आ जाएगा और आप यहाँ पे करोगे पान, देन यू हैव टू एंटर द वैलिड पान कैटेगरी ऑफ पान, राइट. तो आपको यहाँ पे उसका एंड कंफर्म द परमानेंट अकाउंट नंबर ऑफ द पार्टी. So that's what is necessary, and then go to the address detail and then contact details and then payment detail, and everything will be over. Is it clear? यहाँ तक समझ में आ रहा है?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Fine. Now try to understand the other provisions of the sections, right? So any person who is making the payment of any of the items which we have discussed yesterday, and the condition mentioned in all these sections is fulfilled, that particular person has to deduct the tax. Now there are options available. So last 15 minutes मैं नया नहीं शुरू करना चाहता हूं, लेकिन मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूं कि ये जितने भी सेक्शन है, सेक्शन 192 जहां पे सैलरी का पेमेंट हो रहा है, तो उसमें से भी टीडीएस काटना पड़ेगा इफ द कंडीशन इज satisfied, which is mentioned over here. Same way all other sections, section 194, 194A, 192A, 193, right? So whatever the sections are there where the TDS is required to be deducted, अगर वो डिडक्ट होता है तो डिडक्ट करना है तो it is the responsibility on the person who is making the payment. But what will happen कि जिसका टीडीएस कट रहा है उसकी टैक्स लायबिलिटी नहीं है, right? So there is a alternatives available. So TDS sorry, there is a, let me make you understand about the form number 15G and form number 15H and form 13. ये तीन चीज आपको समझनी चाहिए और प्लीज रिमेंबर दैट मटेरियल के अंदर इसके बारे में नहीं लिखा है, लिखा है लेकिन शायद आप समझ नहीं पाओगे, राइट. सो व्हाट इज इट अबाउट? सो फॉर्म नंबर 15G and 15H we will learn today. If the time permits, we will also learn about the form number 13. What is form number 15G and 15H? Let's take a simple example. There is Mr. M. He has a 50 lakh rupees. 50 lakhs of rupees, which he puts a fixed deposit. We made a fixed deposit with SBI. SBI offered 8% interest on it. Now what will happen? Try to understand. So if there is a 50 lakhs of the interest amount, right? So interest payable to Mr. A by SBI is equal to 50 lakhs into 8%. So it comes out to be 4 lakh rupees. Am I right? यहाँ तक समझ में आ रहा है?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Now try to understand. SBI is governed by section is governed by section 194A because it is interest other than interest on security. This fixed deposit is not a security, but they are paying the interest other than interest on security. So that section 194A is saying that if a bank is paying an interest which is exceeding 40,000 in a previous year, then they supposed to deduct the TDS at the rate of 10%. So it's governed by, and they have to deduct the TDS at the rate of 10%. 10% पे TDS काटना पड़ेगा, means 4 लाख के ऊपर 10%. So they have to deduct the 40,000. Am I right? 50,000. It is 40,000, right? Let me show you the section 194A. This is section 194A. The tax rate is 20%. And what is the amount? From April 2019 onwards, it is 40,000. But if the person who is making the deposit is a senior citizen, then the limit is 50,000. But in our case, we are taking Mr. M is not a senior citizen. It is a below the age of 60 years. So he is not a senior citizen. If he is a senior citizen, instead of 40,000, it will be 50,000. But whether it is 40,000 or 50,000, the interest paid by the SBI is anyway is 4 lakh rupees. So it is exceeding the limits, whether it is 50,000 or 40,000, because so we don't know whether the Mr. M is a senior citizen or a not. But whatever it would be, even if he is a senior citizen, the TDS is required to be deducted as the amount is exceeding 50,000. So TDS is required to be deducted at the rate of 10%. So 10% means 40,000. Now this requirement is applicable to SBI Limited. Now what will happen? Mr. M does not have any other income except this interest on fixed deposit. So in that circumstances, he is not required to pay any tax, because as per the Income Tax Act, whether the Mr. M is opt for old regime or a new regime, right? Up to 5 lakhs of rupees, there is no tax. 2.5 lakh, up to 2.5 lakh, exemption limit, no tax. 2.5 lakh to 5 lakhs, 5%, but the rebate is available because the taxable income does not exceed the 5 lakh of rupees. If it goes into the new regime, then also the rebate is available. So the tax will be zero. So unnecessarily, the tax has been deducted by the SBI of 40,000. So section form number 15G or 15H will come to rescue in this kind of a situation. Why? Because the TDS provisions are applicable to the person who is making the payment. It is not framed in a way where the deductee is taken into consideration, right? So it is applicable to the deductor who is making the payment. So the person, Mr. M, is not required to pay the tax. He can submit the form number 15G and 15H as the case may be. In case of senior citizen, 15H, अगर Mr. M 60 साल या उससे ज्यादा की एज है, तो he can submit the form number 15H. Or if Mr. M is not a senior citizen, he can submit the form number 15G to SBI. That his total income in the previous year does not exceed the maximum amount which is chargeable to tax, or he is not supposed to pay the tax. Then based on the declaration in form number 15H by the senior citizen or other than senior citizen, declaration in form number 15G, if it is submitted to the SBI, SBI will not deduct the TDS. Even though section 194 is applicable. Why? Because form number 15G or 15H, as the case may be, has been submitted by the person of whom the tax is required to be deducted. Are you able to understand, dear student? समझ में आ रहा है ना?
Yes, sir.
फाइन. तो आपकी फैमिली मेंबर में और आपके रिलेटिव्स में कोई ऐसे लोग हैं जिसकी इनकम 5 लाख से ज्यादा नहीं है और वो जहाँ पे पेमेंट कर रहे हैं उनको जो पेमेंट मिल रहा है वो टीडीएस काट के आ रहा है, तो आप उनको एडवाइस कर सकते हो कि आप फॉर्म नंबर 15G इन केस ऑफ सीनियर सिटीजन और फॉर्म नंबर 15G 15H in case of senior citizen and 15G in case of non-senior citizens. They can submit these two form, but the condition is their income should not exceed the exemption limit or the taxable income. They don't have the taxable income, so they don't require to pay the tax. So this valuable है. क्यों? क्योंकि उनका जो टैक्स काट रहा है उसको तो एप्लीकेबल है टीडीएस के प्रोविजन, उसको तो काटने ही पड़ेंगे. एसबीआई को अगर नहीं काटना है तो उनको उनको अपने पोजीशन में 15G और 15H चाहिए. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. फॉर्म नंबर 13 थोड़ा बड़ा है, उसको समझाने में थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा, so that we will discuss tomorrow. Is it clear, dear students?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So now I am stopping the recording and